Wyoming business have a number of significant challenges in promoting safe driving here in the state. First, you consider the statistics. 60% of the fatalities are speed related. Addressing that in a state like Wyoming is difficult. It's wide open. Vehicular traffic congestion doesn't exist like in a lot of metro areas and larger cities in some other states. So the challenge really for business is going to be to educate the people about the dangers of speeding, along with DUI. Wyoming is still better than the national average for the DUI cause fatalities based on recent statistics, but that hasn't always been the case. So some of the awareness, the education there has been very beneficial and has impacted that rate. And then seat belts. Lack of seatbelt use, in Wyoming is a pretty significant issue. It is less than the national average, about 4 or 5 points less. And we know that wearing seatbelts can have a significant impact on the number of people that are dying every year. 135 people died in Wyoming in 2011 in motor vehicle highway-related accidents. Improved from 2010 from 153, but still far too many people dying on a per capita basis especially. So education, awareness, reaching out to the employees, changing attitudes is the toughest things for business to confront here in Wyoming. The major industries affected by driving safety in Wyoming are those related to transportation, obviously. Those companies that are putting a lot of miles in on the highways. And I'm not talking just about trucking companies, I'm talking about any company that's involved in transportation. That includes the oil and gas industry, the mining industry, the construction industry. Every company is faced with the same challenge, that motor vehicle crashes and fatalities are the biggest are the biggest concern because they have statistically the most impact on businesses. Economic costs, as well as the personal and morale costs to a company are significant because of the high numbers associated with driving. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration tells us that the major cause of accidental death in the U.S. is motor vehicle crashes for people age 5 to age 34, and number 2 for everybody over 35. That's a very telling statistic. So it's something we should all be concerned about, but particularly by businesses in Wyoming should be extremely concerned about that because it affects their bottom line and the quality of life in Wyoming. I look at driving safety programs as tools in a toolbox. You got to have leadership commitment. There's no question about that. You got to have a good, valid driver training program, one that addresses the issues that are affecting your company or your employees. And those vary company to company, and industry to industry. Oil and gas industry, we have a lot of backing, we have a lot of animal costs. I'm sure that's similar in most industries, but we need to customize that driving to really impact those things that are causing crashes. That's on sites, but also on the highways. We've got to address those speeding issues, those erratic driving issues, those turning movements that also are factors. Winter driving is a significant issue in Wyoming. We need to make sure people have the skills. We also need to consider having some technology to help us. In-vehicle monitoring systems, I spoke about in my presentation today. All are tools in that toolbox. Then, last but not least, one of the more important ones is having some policies and practices, SOPs, standard operating procedures in place that are practical and enforced to make sure that employees know what the guidelines are, that there's ramifications to violating those. They got to be held accountable. Those are the things from a multi-pronged approach that can really, when applied together, make a difference in the bottom line, in the number of crashes you're having, and in the cost to a company. In Wyoming, there's a ton of resources that are already available to help employers of all sizes, big companies, small companies, address driving safety issues and help their employees. And I think all employers ought to embrace those too. You have the Wyoming Seatbelt Coalition, a real strong, unified group that's addressing seatbelt issues. You have the Wyoming Workforce Development Council, obviously, and the Wyoming Department of Workforce Services, which includes the Occupational Safety and Health Administration oversight for the state of Wyoming. You know, I think a lot of companies don't realize that government really tries, and it's been my experience being in law enforcement in Colorado for 30 years, government really wants to work with industry to prevent things from happening, to seek voluntary compliance. You know, we don't want to be heavy-handed. It's about creating that safe environment. And if we can do that, government can do that hand in hand with industry, working together without a lot of enforcement, through education, through assistance, through auditing, whatever a company might need. I think government is willing to step up to do that. And I see that happening regularly in Wyoming. There's those resources. Then you got all kinds of federal resources, federal motor carrier safety if you're a large commercial vehicle fleet operator, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. There's advocacy groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You know, you got so many interested and involved people here. The coroners, fire, EMS, law enforcement, the highway patrol, the city police, the sheriffs. They're all concerned about the safety of their citizens. All resources for companies to draw from. All you got to do is be asked or invited in. So.